Where did my slides go? Here we go. Sorry, guys. I thought I was all ready to go. Okay. All right. Well, that took a while. Sorry about that. Okay, so we are talking about productive priorities today, and this is a fun one, I think, because it's really all about how we can work part-time and make stupid money. And one of the things that comes up when I'm coaching so often is the overwhelm, the feeling like it's business is taking over their life. And so I'm excited to share with you today how we can really work part-time, get all the important things done, and still make great money, but have that balance that we're all, sort of fighting for and wanting to protect. So let's start with some mantras. You know how I love my mantras and my quotes. And the first one is, change the way you think and you'll change the results. Well, let's make that even a little bit bigger. Change the way you think, and then you'll change the way you work, and then you'll change the results that you get. There's a saying I'm sure everybody on this call has heard before, and that is, insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. If we're going to get different results, we have to change the way that we work, and most often that starts with changing the way we think. So as we go through this training, as with many of my trainings, you're going to hear things that perhaps you haven't heard before, a different way of working your business, different focuses, different systems. So I hope that you'll be open to thinking about doing some things differently in your business. The second mantra is, do the most important things first, and I'm going to come back to that one in just a second, but you see that little picture right there. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, and how we spend those 24 hours really determines what we get done. Do you remember me saying a little bit ago on one of our trainings, might have been the last one, maybe it was the plan to add 274 people, but I said, so often in this business, we say, you can work your business any way you want. As a leader, we say that so that it sounds easy and fun and something that they can add to their life. Or maybe you've heard people say that to you. You can work this business any way you want. And that's true, but I think that there's more to it than that. I think if we finish that thought, it really should be, you can work your business any way you want. But in order to get what you want from your business, how you work your business has to reflect that. So we want to do the most important things first and make sure that we are getting those things done that really move the needle in that time frame that we have, that's all about working part-time, but doing the right things so that we can make the money. And the last mantra is, the serious money in this business is in building leaders that build leaders. So I'm going to elaborate more on that as we go through this training together, but let's start with do the most important things first. How many of you know Stephen Covey? Just give me a thumbs up. Or okay, excellent. Have you read his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? Okay, one, yes. Okay, so this story is going to sound familiar to you, the one person that's read this book already. It's a great book. It's not a book that I recommend to people who are new to reading business books because it uses 7-syllable words, and so you have to really think about what you're reading and concentrate, because he's just a very high-level guy. But he's amazing, brilliant, and great in the arena of prioritizing, doing the right things, those kinds of things. And so he tells a story in his book, and he also shares this example when he's speaking live. But basically, it's taking a large jar and putting it on the table and filling that jar with large rocks, and then asking the question, is the jar full? And the audience will say yes, because it's all the way to the top. So then he takes a bowl of gravel, pours it into the jar, and it fills in the spaces between the glass and the big rocks. And again, asks, is the jar full? they're kind of catching on, so, I don't think so. Then he takes a bowl of sand and he pours it in a jar, and that fills in the spaces between the gravel and the big rocks. Is the jar full? Well, now they've got this. No, it's not, because you can always add more. Then he pours in water and it fills in the spaces between the big rocks and the sand and the pebbles, and asks the question, what is the point of this illustration? And somebody says that no matter how full your life is, you can, or your schedule is, you can always add one more thing. And Stephen Covey, the master of priorities, says that is not the point of this illustration. The point is, if I hadn't put in the big rocks first, they would have never fit. If I put in the water and the sand and the gravel first, those big rocks would not fit in the jar. And that's where we need to go mentally, is what are the big rocks in my business that I need to make sure fit in a jar before I add anything else? And do we not find ourselves also thinking, I can always add one more thing? How many of us feel like, okay, I've got everything done that I plan to do today. What else should I do? And we just keep adding to that, thinking, well, I've got time. What else should I do? Instead of just saying, okay, I'm done. I'm done. So that's do the most important things first. And that third was the serious money in this business is in building leaders who build leaders. So what are those big rocks that will take us to that big money? Let's look at this illustration so that you know what I mean when I say build leaders that build leaders. If we're the only one recruiting on our team, then all we have is our personal team. And it's just me recruiting. So even if I'm recruiting 2 people a month, that's still 24 people a year total coming into my organization. But when we build a leader, then it's me bringing in 2 every month and that person bringing in 2 every month. So now I've got 48 people coming into my team this year. But what if I teach this leader to build leaders? Now I've got 48 more people coming in to my team each year that I had nothing to do with. She built these 2 leaders. And what if these 2 build 2 each? That's what I mean when I say the big money in this business is in building leaders that build leaders. Even if I'm good at building direct leaders, maybe I have 3 across, but I only have 3. But when I can teach those people that I'm my leaders to be a leader builder, that's when we really see that great compound growth. In fact, if you look at any really big leader, those top leaders in your company, guess where their biggest income is? Right here. Even though it's the smallest override, maybe it's 5, 4, 3 override, maybe it's 3, 2, 1, whatever number this is, even if it's 1%, this is where the biggest income is, because that's where the most people are when you build a big organization. We've got to get that part down of being a leader that builds leaders that builds leaders. If we really want to work part-time and make stupid money, that's what our priority is. But there's things that lead up to that, right? So, and we'll talk about that. So here's a bigger picture of that. You know what, I want to go back because I wanted to say something else about that. So with the Sherry system that we talked about in the plan to add 274 people to your team in 18 months, which is really all about building leaders that build leaders. When we follow that plan, you build one, and on average, this one will get 2 leaders. They'll build 2 leaders, because some leaders get to that first level of leadership and they just park there. And others get to that mid-level of leadership and they park there. So they might have built 4 leaders. This leader didn't build any. And then rarely we get that leader that goes to the top level of leadership. Those are our key people, and they build lots of leaders. But if we average it out, we'll get 2 leaders from each leader we promote if we're following the plan. And because it's a system that works for everybody, these leaders also average 2 leaders. Point being, you build one, follow the Sherry plan, and you get 6 more for free. Somebody else built them, and you get to benefit from it. You build one, teach them how to build leaders, and you get 6 more for free. So now let's look at that bigger picture. You didn't build 1 leader, you built 6 leaders. Now this is over a period of time. This is probably that 18-month plan. But you've got your 6 direct leaders, which would be all you have if you're the only one building leaders. But because you're teaching them to build leaders, you've got 12 here and 24 here. Instead of 6, you have a total of 48 leaders by building leaders that build leaders. If we're the only one recruiting, this is just a visual of what that looks like. We have a $10,000 team, and I'm always, until the day I die, going to be talking about $10,000 teams out of the gate. When you promote that leader, brand new leader, $10,000 team. I'm going to be forever talking about that, not your minimum. You know, we have to do $2,500 as a team and $1,000 personally, or we have to do $1,000 personally and $4,000 as a team to get to this level. Those are minimums. That's not what we want to talk about. So here we are. We've gotten out the gate. We've got a $10,000 team. Let's just say you make a 6% override. Your income is $600 a month if you're the only one recruiting. But when we do what we were just talking about, then, oops, I can't see my slide. Let me move you guys up. Then we've got 42 leaders with $10,000 teams. Some of them are going to be minimums. I know that. They're going to do whatever the minimum is at your company, whether it's $2,500 or $4,000 or whatever it is. But then those others are going to start out with $10,000 and build to $30,000 and $40,000, $50,000 personal teams. So we'll just kind of average that out and think 42 leaders with $10,000 teams. You've got a $420,000 a month team by building leaders that build leaders. This is starting to get you excited a little bit, I hope. So if we're going to do this, if we're going to build giant teams today, what are a couple of the danger zones that we want to be thinking about? The first one is holding too few parties, and that's something we hear everywhere. So that's not a new thought. That's not a place where we have to change the way we think. Holding too few parties. That means we're not meeting enough people to get the recruits that we need, to get the leaders that we need. The other one is not anything that we talk about, or I've heard anybody else talk about, and that is holding too many parties. You can hold too many parties. We want to be modeling something people can see themselves doing. I had a coaching call today with a gal. She lives in Phoenix. Her commute from her suburb into Phoenix proper is an hour. She works 8 hours, and then she's got an hour to an hour and a half drive back home. So she said, I'm exhausted when I get home. And I said, you and every other woman in America, you're not alone. I mean, whether we are stay-at-home moms, homeschooling our kids, or working from home, it's just, even before COVID, we have been the busiest women in the history of the world, and that's only gotten worse, not better. So we're trying to recruit and build leaders out of these really crazy busy women. We have to model something that people can see themselves doing. In our party count, where they say, I can add that to my life. In the way that we lead our teams, I could add that to my life if we're going to inspire people to follow us into leadership. So holding parties was one of those really hard lessons that I had to learn the hard way. I had just stepped down from a corporate job where the job that I left, my salary was $200,000 a year, which is a really great salary, but I just had gotten tired of having a boss and being on a plane all the time and having people tell me what I should say, what I shouldn't say, and blah, blah, blah. So I just thought, I'm done with this. I'm going to go back into the field where I know the big money is anyway. You can always make more money in the field than you can corporately. So I stepped down. Of course, I had money set aside because I knew it's going to take me a year to build back up, or more, to build back up to that kind of an income. So plenty of money set aside to sustain our household through then. But then shortly after that, my ex-husband got fired from his job. So now we're not down 2 six-figure incomes, 1 six-figure income, we're down 2. And I've got a choice to make. I can either go back to corporate, which I didn't want to do, or I could really step up my game. So I decided to really step up my game. And so I started doing 15 to 30 parties a month. And I did that for 5 years. And my people would say, I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to work as hard as you. And I'd say, you don't have to. I just, I'm the only income, and a party means keeping the lights on. It's like, so I have to, but you don't have to. It didn't matter how many times I said that. They looked at me as their leader, who they loved and respected, and thought, because I'm their leader, if you're a leader, you're your team's leader, and they think you're the best leader in the company. So it didn't matter what I said. They just felt like if I'm going to be as good of a leader as Sherry, I have to work so hard, and I don't want to do that. So to make that really obvious, I was corporate before this last 5 years in the field, but before that was when I built my biggest organization, and that was 140 leaders and a $14 million organization in 6 years. And this was back when we were only doing home parties, so things moved a little bit slower. But it was a really big organization in 6 years. In those 5 years that I was in the field, when I was doing 15 to 30 parties a month, I promoted 2 leaders. 140 in 6 years, 2 in 5 years. Nobody wanted my job. So too many parties is actually going to hurt you. So we have to find that balance between, I need the income from my party, my commissions, to how much am I willing to give up income-wise in order to build that team. There's trade-offs no matter what we want from our business. So just want to make sure that we talked about that. The other thing that can be a stopper for us is that recognition trap. There's something really appealing, and we're coming up on conference season, and there's something so appealing about being recognized on stage at national conference as one of the top 5 in sales, one of the top 5 in recruiting, one of the top in leader promotions, or just any category where we're the top 5. It's a big deal. People will work their guts out all year for 5 seconds of stage time at national conference. So we have to be, and then there's just also even the recognition from your upline in her newsletter or in her meetings where you're in the top 5 there. So it's fun to be recognized. It means you're doing a great job, but that can be one of those things that causes us to work too hard in one particular area. We get a singular focus. To be a top seller in the company, I've got to be sitting there with a very large party count and really focused on sales from my parties, doing vendor events, or just all those things that we do to get sales. And so even when I bring in those recruits, I can't focus on them. If we have just a recruiting focus and we recruit so many people that we don't have time to develop them, then that can hold us back as well. So if you just love the sales part of this, and you really could care less whether you build a giant team or people follow you, and you're recognized on stage, then you're being recognized for the right thing at the right place. Same with recruiting. If you just like bringing people in, sharing the opportunity, but you're not really that concerned about building them into leaders, you just like sharing the business, then being recognized at national conference for recruiting is the right thing at the right time. If you want to build a giant organization, then you need a multi-level focus on the right party count, the right number of recruits that you have time to develop and build into leaders, and the right focus on building those leaders. So that's all I mean here. I don't want anybody to take offense to this, but just depending on what you want from your business. Remember, how we work our business has to reflect what we want from our business. So just be careful of that, that's all. Do you feel like you're working all the time? Another one of those things that I hear from my coaching clients on a regular basis is, I get up in the morning before my kids get up, I go to my desk, I'm at work, and I swear I don't stop until 10 o'clock at night, long after the kids have gone to bed. This is just all consuming, but it takes that long to get everything done that I need to get done. And so I have to ask them the question, dear coaching client, are you really working all the time, or are you getting up and checking Facebook and messages and email and responding, and then you get the kids up, get them breakfast on the table and take a quick peek and see if I've got anything new from Facebook or messages or email. And then we get the kids out the door and we start to do the dishes. But on the way to do the dishes, we hear a little ding. Oh, that means I have a message. So I have to run and check that message. And then I headed back to the dishwasher and I think, you know what, I should start the laundry before I do the dishes. So it's running while I do the dishes. And we head to the laundry room, but on the way we hear a ding and oh gosh, that's somebody talking to me. So I need to go check on that. And then we start to go to the laundry room. We think, oh, I might as well go upstairs and get the laundry, the other laundry before I start the laundry. And our day is like this. It's like, running from personal to business to personal to business, constant distraction, constant reactive mode, where we're not really getting any of the important things done. We're just getting interrupted all the time. So we need start times and stop times. We need business time and we need family time. And when we're done with business time, we are done with business time and it's all family. When we are not supposed to be with our family, when we're supposed to be working, we should be working. We just need to separate those and be focused for the time that we're going to work our business. And you will get so much more done. You'll be so much more productive. We also feel like everything is in our head. No, we don't feel like everything is in our head. All those things that we need to do as a mom, a friend, a wife, a business owner, and often also an employee, and all those things that we need to do are in our head. I got to get that gift for that wedding on Saturday, and oh my gosh, that graduation is coming up 2 weeks. I got to get something for that too. And I don't think I even have anything to wear to the wedding, so I should get a dress. And oh my gosh, soccer! I can't forget soccer on Thursday night, and I need to have lunch with my mom. I haven't had lunch with my mom, and so all this stuff is in our head. On top of when am I going to make my booking contacts? When am I going to do my host coaching? When am I going to talk to those new consultants? When am I going to do a training? It's like everything is in our head. I should do a newsletter. When am I going to get that done? We just need to get these things scheduled. And I'm going to talk about that. Like, how do we schedule these things? Because when they are into our schedule, if it's Wednesday at 3:00 to 3:30, I'm going to make my booking contacts. I don't have to, it's gone. It's out of my head now. I know it's going to get done and I don't have to think about it anymore. And it's time to set some boundaries too of when we're working, and when we're not, we're not. When you have that separation, your heart is going to be so much happier because your family is getting the time that they need and your business is getting the time that it needs. I was talking to a client today and she and her husband and her kids are like 19 and 20 something, and her parents all live together. And they count on her a lot to run errands for her. And she said, sometimes I have a time that I'm going to do something, but then my dad needs me to take him here. And I said, when you're at work at your job, does your dad call you and say, I need you to come and get me and take me to blah, blah? And she said, no. I said, you have a boundary, right? He can't call you at work and say, I need you to come home and get me and take me to pick up my car. I mean, he can't. So we need those same kinds of boundaries. Just, you let your family know, this is when I'm working. This is when I'm available. And so if you need me to do something to help you, you need to schedule it in my time frame. It's like, I never thought about it that way. But that's what I mean when I say boundaries. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's get down to the nitty gritty and talk about what kind of time we're talking about and where am I going to spend that time to be the most productive. If we're going to work a 10 to 25 hour work week, we need to focus on our big five to get our biggest ROTI, return on time invested. We need to focus on our big five. So 10 to 25 hours, that's kind of a big gap, isn't it? If you're a consultant, then you need like 5 hours of party time a week if you're going to do 2 parties a week, and an hour for your booking contacts and hostess coaching. That's it. If you're in your first 2 levels of leadership in your company, 10 hours a week will get the job done. So if you're doing 2 parties a week, that's 5 hours of party time. That leaves you 5 hours for booking contacts, host coaching, emails, working with your team members, those kinds of things. You have a small team still, those first 2 levels of leadership. So 10 hours gets the job done. If you're in the next 2 levels of leadership, then we're talking 15. So those 2 mid-level, I'm thinking about how many levels of leadership most companies have. But when you've got a couple to 4 leaders on your team, then 15 hours is your time frame. 5 hours of party time and 10 hours of booking contacts, host coaching, and team stuff. If you're in the top levels of leadership, from that second to the top level to the top, then 20 to 25 gets it done. Let me tell you about Martine Williams, who makes $500,000 a year and works 20 hours a week, one of my coaching clients. Let me tell you about CJ Summers, who has 8,000 people in her downline and works 20 hours a week and made $138,000 in a month. So if they can do it, you can do it. It's just that we feel like there's so much we can do, so much more we should be doing, and we put that guilt on ourselves, and we enable our team to expect that from us. So you can work part-time and get everything done that you need to. So I wanted to give you an idea of, at your level, how many hours is that going to take? What are your big productive priorities? Your personal business is always number one. If you're not holding parties, you're not meeting people, new people, to find your next recruit, to find your next leader. Your personal business is always and forever going to be your number one priority. The only reason that Martine Williams has made $500,000 a year for 14 years is because she's never stopped working her personal business. 2 parties a week, 2 recruits a month, build leaders. So she's replacing those consultants that are leaving the business. She's replacing leaders that choose to leave the business. I just talked to her a couple days ago. She has 15 or 16 direct leaders. Still, after all these years. So number 1, booking parties, host coaching, so that we minimize our cancellations, we get higher attendance. And number 3 is holding those parties. And remember, it's 1 party a week to maintain, 6 parties a month for slow growth, and 8 a month for explosive growth. Number 4 is recruiting contacts, following up with those recruits in a timely manner. And number 5 is coaching calls and new consultant contact calls. All right, so that's our 5 priorities. Let's talk about time frames. Your booking contacts, 30 minutes a week will get the job done. I used to say 2 hours. So today, it's so much easier because we were making booking calls, and it takes a lot longer when you're having a voice-to-voice conversation or even dialing, leaving a message. So it took longer to get those parties. But today, 30 minutes of just reaching out to people, whether it's through text, messenger, or even better, voice text or voice messaging, so that they can hear the enthusiasm and energy in your voice. But 30 minutes. Host coaching, 30 minutes. We're only doing 1.5 to 2 parties a week if we're in growth mode, and we can host as coach in 30 minutes with that party count. Holding your parties, holding your parties 5 hours a week. We talk about that all the time. It's just 2.5 hours per party. Recruiting contacts, 30 minutes a week, following up with those recruit leads. And the big chunk, even though it's just one thing basically, is 5 hours. And that's when you're at that 20 to 25 hour mark. So you lower level leaders, you don't need 5 hours of coaching time and new consultant contact time because you don't have that many yet direct leaders, future leaders, and new people that you're working with. So at the top, it's 5 hours of coaching calls and new consultant contact calls. Those are your big needle movers. Bookings, host coaching, holding parties, recruiting, and working with your team to develop those future leaders, working with your new consultants so that they're building their party counts, getting more confident, getting more excited, making money. All of those things really move the needle into where you're going to go. So that works out to 11.5 hours a week, even if you're doing 5 hours of coaching and new consultant contact calls. So if you're at that 15-hour mark, that still leaves you 3.5 hours for responding to emails, planning your meetings and things like that. If you're at that 20 to 25 hour mark, then you've got 9.5 hours of time to get to that 20-hour mark for all of the responsibilities that you have at a higher level of leadership. But these are your most important pieces, and they're often things that we let go when we get to be a big leader, especially our personal business. And then things start to fall apart for you. That's when I see big, really successful companies start to fail, is when their top leaders stop working their personal business. It's not that they're not working, it's that they're not holding parties anymore, finding new recruits, building new leaders. These are the people that built the company. These top leaders, all the other leaders are under them. They built the company. And when they stop working, first of all, the message that sends out is when I get to that level, I don't have to work anymore with personal business either. So then all of our workers just stop working when they get to that top level. But also the speed of the leader determines the pace of the pack. And if you're not partying, neither does your team. All right, so let's talk about putting your big 5 priorities to work. First, set office hours and stick to them. That's what I meant by start times and stop times. Today, your office hours can be anything you want them to be. What works best for you? If we have consultants or leaders that still are working full-time, we might feel like, or we're making our booking contacts, we might feel like I need to be reaching out to people in the evening because that's when they're free. It's just not true anymore. We have our phone on our desk, and even if we're at work, and every time it vibrates, we pick it up and look at it and see who just messaged me, and we respond. So even with our consultants, they can chat with us back and forth even when they're working. I mean, employers are just used to it. And if it's a 30-minute coaching call and they want your help, then they can take one lunch break a week to talk to you on their lunch break while they're munching away. So you set your office hours when they work for you. And when you're thinking about your office hours, you're going to take out your party time. So if you're a newer leader and you're working 10 hours a week and you've got 5 hours of party time, that leaves you 5 hours for the rest of the week. So when you're scheduling your office hours, that means that I only need to work 1 hour a day in my office 5 days a week and I'm done. For those of you that are working 20 hours a week, you can work, and you've got 5 hours of party time, you've got 15 hours to spread out over your week. So it can be 3 hours a day in your office. And people always say, I work 40 hours and I don't get everything done. If you follow this system, you'll get everything done. It's just that we're running all over the place and being in reactive mode. We've got to be in proactive mode where we are taking control of our schedule and we're doing the most important things first. So I use Google Calendar. I know there's a lot of different apps out there. I love Google Calendar because it has a notes page and I can look at my schedule by day, by week, and by month. So whatever, and I usually tend to stay in the week so I can see what my whole week looks like at a glance. So, but whatever app you use, just block out your office hours so that you know when you're working. And I'm going to show you a schedule in just a second so you get a visual of that. And then next is screen your messages. I got this from Brian Tracy. Anybody know Brian Tracy? You know everybody. Brian Tracy is the time management and organization guru of all time. He's got books like Focal Point and Time Power, which are amazing, both of them amazing books. And so much of what I teach regarding organization, time management came from Brian Tracy. And this was one of those things. In the book, he says, screen your calls, because when he wrote that book, we didn't have text or anything. But what he's just saying is we let those like phone calls, text messages, or Facebook messages interrupt what we're in the middle of. And he also says when we're interrupted, it takes us 20 minutes to get back on task. 20 minutes. And I can tell you from experience that when I am writing not a newsletter, but like an insights where it's a training article that I write for my subscribers. And I'm in just like creative mode and I'm just going, right along, and I've got these thoughts in my head, like next, I'm gonna put this next and this next. And then a staff member walks into the office and says, hey, so I have a quick question for you. And I'm like, oh, what? And then frequently that creative genius is gone. That thought that I had is gone. And sometimes I never got it back. And that happens more the older I get. But the point is, he's 100% right. And one of my coaching clients, every time her husband walks in, she's like, 20 minutes, because she told him that story. And he's like, oh, okay. And he walks back out, 20 minutes. So that's what he means by screen your messages. Like, just turn those notifications off. And when it's time to check your messages, check your emails, that's when you do it. Check your phone calls, that's when you do it. But if you let those interrupt you, you're going to get back in that reactive mode. You're going to lose your train of thought, and you're not going to get the important things done. So when is that 10 minutes that you're going to respond to emails? Because it really shouldn't take that much time. Emails, messages, and phone calls. And that's when you do that. Just in the block of time you've blocked out for that, but don't let it interrupt you, put you off track. Schedule your big 5 priorities in your planner. So let's go to I'm going to talk about your planner, but this is where it starts. I love any kind of a tool that has a month at a glance. I told you I use Google Calendar. I used to use the Franklin Covey planner. I used that for probably 20 years. I loved it, but it just got heavy. You know, it got bigger and bigger and fatter. So I love having everything online now. And also when it's online, my staff can see my schedule. They know what I'm doing. They know whether they should be interrupting me or not. Is it just, is she on a call with the president? Is she on a coaching call, or is she just responding to emails? They can see my schedule, but also it's with me wherever I go. So if somebody asks me when we're golfing, can we do blah blah at 3 o'clock? I can look at my schedule and say, no, sorry, I can't. I got a full day that day. I know exactly what my schedule is. But here's what I want you to do. I like the month at a glance to look clean. Do you see how clean this looks? Especially when we are showing our calendar to a prospective hostess or a prospective consultant. Some speakers and trainers will say, fill that up. You want to look busy and in demand, so they don't dare cancel on you because they can't get another date. Well, that's one way to look at it if you're focused on bookings. But if I am focused on recruiting, my number one prospect is my hostess. So I want her to look at my schedule and go, wow, her life looks easy. My calendar is way busier than that. So that's why I want it to look clean like this. The only thing that goes on your month at a glance is your important family days, not soccer practice, but the soccer game, the birthdays, the anniversaries. So those are highlighted in red on your calendar. Oh my gosh, I keep doing this. And then the blue is your meeting day. Now, some of you do in-person meetings, some of you do Zooms, but however you do them, you want to train your team to block that out so that they show up for that, because that's where they get re-excited, recharged, trained, equipped, build their skill set. So we want to train them to block out the meeting time. So that's blue. And then the green is our party days. So we want to teach our consultants and our leaders to block out their party days. When do you want to do parties? And what you'll hear is, I'll do a party anytime they want. Well, let me just give you a different perspective on that. When I say, Amy, what day in July would you like to do your party? Amy's trying to run through her head 30 days. What am I doing in 30 days? Like all 30 days. What day is open? And it's like, I don't know. I'm going to have to look at my schedule. I'll get back to you. But when I say, Amy, I have the 17th or the 3rd of July. Which one works best for you? She only has to think about 2 dates. It's easier, and she'll pick one. Or if those 2 happen to be full, we give her 2 other dates, just 2 at a time. We just feed them 2 at a time. And did you notice I said the 27th or the 3rd? We always say the earliest date that we want to fill last, because that's the one that sticks with them. I learned that from a top leader, and it was like magic every time. They picked the last day I said. So give them the earliest date that you want to fill last. It's less confusing for them, but that leaves you in control of when you do your parties, so that you're not doing a party on a game night or on your anniversary, or just, when you don't want to do a party. For me, I hated doing parties on Sundays. And every once in a while, I'd get sucked into it. And I just resented it the whole day. That was family day for me. We had our whole routine and I was missing it. So they'll pick one of the days that you are available. You don't have to accommodate them. Then you're going to find yourself all over the place. But also, because when you and your consultants block out your party days in green, can you see the open ones? Like there's, I don't have my glasses on, but there's some of those green ones in there that are empty. So we want to just, still need to book. There we go, on the 6th. When we have those blocked out like that, then it's like a green neon light that's just flashing at us, green for money, by the way, that says you still need to book this date, you still need to book this date. But if we're just doing them anytime somebody wants one, then we settle for what we get. And we just kind of think, oh, well, I guess that's all I'm going to do this month. But if we know that's a party day and I've still got to fill it, we tend to fill it. And your consultants will too. That's why you want to teach them to calendar block. All right, so here's what I mean by your schedule. Every day we have our schedule blocked out. Now this is a Sherry schedule, and I don't have to model anything that people want because I'm not trying to recruit anybody. You are, right? So you want to block out your office hours and stick to them so that you're working part-time. But my point here is I know exactly what I'm doing every hour I'm in the office so that I stay busy and I get the important things done. And oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. So at this period of time, I had 3 contracts with 3 different companies where I was a trainer for one, a VP of sales for one, and a national sales director for one. So I was a busy girl, and I still have my coaching clients. And I found myself, because I was working a ton, that I started getting up early in the morning so that I could get things done before I started my coaching calls. But I got up, poured myself a cup of coffee, got to my computer, started looking at Facebook and text and email and blah, blah, blah. And I realized, like, I'm here for an hour and a half and I haven't gotten anything that I was supposed to get done. Because even though I've been a scheduler for 25 years, those few hours that I got up early, I didn't put anything in there. And so I just kind of piddled around. And I am not a morning person. So to get up at 5 or 6 in the morning to work and just sit there and look at Facebook for an hour, that's an hour and a half more I could have been sleeping. And I realized that even as somebody who's a scheduler, I was missing the mark here and I was really unproductive. When you've got exactly what you're going to be doing, you have an agenda of what you're going to be doing today, and you will be so much more productive. Some of my clients say, well, Sherry, I'm really a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. That's just who I am. I like to be a free spirit. And I'm like, how's that working for you? Because you're not getting the important things done. That's why you reached out to me, right? So that I could help you move faster. So we're going to get you on a schedule, my friend. So when we put in, I'm going to make my booking contacts at, let's say 11 a.m. to 11:30. It's out of my head. I don't have to remember it anymore. I know it's going to get done. I'm going to do my host coaching from 11:30 to 12. I don't have to think about it anymore. We just are so much more productive. So block out your office hours, but do more than that. Make sure that every minute you're in your office is accounted for. I know what I'm going to be doing when I'm in my office for those 30-minute increments, those 60-minute increments. I know when I'm going to do my team training. It's already on my schedule. I know when I'm going to write my newsletter. It's already on my schedule. I know when I'm going to do my coaching calls. They're on my schedule. I want to give you an example of why we need to focus on those important groups of people and why we want to focus on the important things in our personal business. So this is just one Saturday. It happens to be in November, that last year that I was in the field. And my best party of the entire year was that Saturday. She had a $1,700 party. So it was a really unusual day for me, but it's also the day that we had the most parties booked in that season. So I wanted to share with you the potential. I encourage you to overbook your calendar. And we're probably thinking, I can't even get my calendar as full as I want it. But we take that in baby steps. We book a few parties and then we do the right things to make sure we're getting multiple parties at that party. We stack the hostess, we play a booking game, we plant booking seeds, and we turn those couple of parties into 4. And then we turn those 4 into 8, and those 8 into 16. And why would I do that when I just said I only want to hold a maximum of 2 parties a week? Why would I do that? For the sole purpose of being able to give parties away to my team. Why would I book parties just to give them away? That's money I should be earning. So here's why. So this particular Saturday, I had 14 parties booked, 3 canceled. So now I've got 11 parties on my calendar for today. I always did 11 a.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m. for myself personally. So that meant that I had 8 parties to give away to my team. I didn't give them away to them that day. As I knew that the parties were going to hold, I felt really confident. I just gave more and more of those parties away to my team members. So I gave away 8 parties that week. I held my 3 personally, and let's look at the results. Oh my goodness, here we go, sorry. Let's look at the results. So of the 3 that I held personally, I had $2,200 in volume. We had a $350 party average, so it wasn't a real high party average. So you can see that I had a $1,700 party that day, which was really unusual. And then from the 8 parties that I gave away to team members, that generated $3,200 in volume that day. So, I mean, how many parties can I do on a Saturday? I was doing 3, 11, 3, and 7. So if I can keep booking those parties, why not give them away to my team? I'm doing as many as I can possibly do. And I still have 8 to give away because you just keep booking. What we tend to do is, okay, I've got my 8 booked for July. So now I'm going to start focusing on August. Okay, I've got my 8 for August. I'm going to start focusing on September. And by the time we get to September, a lot of those parties cancel because we booked them so far out, they've lost interest. Income-wise, I made $836 on the parties that I held, but because I gave away 8 parties, I made another $224 that day. So my income was $1,060. And can we even imagine how much my income would be if I didn't have that $1,700 party? The income I made on the 224 for my team members would have been more than I made on my parties. But there's additional benefits to overbooking and giving parties to your team members. If I'm the only one holding a party that day and I just hold 1 and I get 2 bookings, I've added 2 parties into my team schedule in that one day. But if I hold 3 and I give 8 away, there's 11 parties being held that day. If we get 2 bookings each, that's 22 new parties being added into my team schedule in one day. And what about recruiting? If I hold 1 party, I talk to 3 people about the business, I get 0 recruits because it's 1 out of 10. But if there's 11 parties being held, 3 by me, 8 by my team members, and we each talk to 3 people at every party, and that was one of my rules, is if I give you a party, you've got to talk to 3 people at that party about the business op. That was one of the rules. So that means that 33 people are being talked to, 1 recruit out of every 10 that we share the business with. That's 3 recruits in one day added to my personal team. Just one day out of 30. So there's some real serious benefits to overbooking your calendar. Okay, then the question is, how do I make that happen? Because if I'm at a party, they don't want anybody else to do it. They just want me. They love me. Well, I took them on party observations, and that was one of the ways that I got them to go on party observations with me. So my new consultants who are, they're visual learners, and I can tell them what to do, but when they watch me greeting the guests as they're arriving, when they watch me stack the hostess, you can do these online or in home or in person, however you're doing them, but they're watching me stack the hostess, play a booking game, plant recruiting seeds, play the game, the question and answer game. Those new consultants are learning by watching me. And then my future leaders, they would go on party observations with me because they wanted to learn how to recruit. And so they're picking up on things that they might not have picked up on as a new consultant, because now they're interested in recruiting. So that's what they are learning when they go on party observations with me. And my promise to them is, if you go on a party with me, help me set up, help, if you're doing face-to-face parties, they would help me set up, carry things in, take orders. They couldn't talk during the party presentation time. That was my only rule, another rule, because I didn't want my customers to feel like they were being tag teamed. So they just observed during the presentation time, that they would help me take orders, help me pack up, carry things out. But it was a learning experience for them. And because they were there and visiting with the guests before the party started, helping with orders, and visiting with them after the presentation time, they were building rapport with those guests right along with me. So they didn't really care who did the party. And I was also very intentional on not being super consultant. So nobody was watching me saying, "Oh my gosh, she's so amazing." I was warm and I was fun, but I was never funny. I mean, I couldn't be even if I wanted to, but I was that consultant that you can do it or she can do it. I don't really care. So that it was easy for me to give those parties away. So that was my promise. If you go with me, you get a booking. And if for some reason I didn't get a booking that night, which would be really strange, I just had a pile of them on my calendar so I could give them one of those. Getting the hostess buy-in, having them be there is part of it, but what if she can't do the party? What if the gal that's with me can't do it? So still we have an unknown face. So when I'm going over there and we played a booking game, and Angie and Cindy and Carrie have the book a party cards, I would just go over to them and say, "Hey, Jenny's going to be right over here with you. My calendar's packed for the next 30 days. She's got a couple of openings, so she's going to come over here and get you set up for your party and take excellent care of you." Walk away. People just follow the voice of authority. They just do. Nobody questioned it. If I said, "So my calendar's kind of full, and would it be okay if, Susie did your party for you? Would that be all right? Do you mind?" I mean, that tone of voice just says, she's not as good as me, but would that be okay? But she's going to take excellent care of you. She'll be right over here to get you on our schedule. People just follow, like, that's okay. That's the way it's done. Nobody ever questioned it. And you can even say, she does a better job than I do anyway. Wait till you see her, so they love that. And if you do this, if you overbook your calendar and take people on party observations with you and give parties away, guess what? Your leaders will do the same thing, because the speed of the leader determines the pace of the pack. They do what you do. They do what you model for them. So you're going to have leaders that are overbooking, taking people on party observations, building a stronger skill set with their team, and also giving those parties away. All right, so here's another little example of who we focus on and why. One of the hardest things for me as a professional coach is to get my clients to let go of working with certain people. "Oh, but she really wants it." No, she doesn't, or she'd have different results. "Oh, but she'd be so good." Yeah, but she's not doing the work to get there. So here we go. So this is April. It just happens to be the last month of my life that I was in the field like you guys. So this was the results of my last month. My team, my personal team, sold 33,626. Now that doesn't count my leaders and their teams, just my personal team. If we broke this down, my sales were 5,532. Combined sales of consultants in their first 3 months of business, so my newbies, 5,963. Combined sales of my future leaders, there was 5 of them, 19,472. Combined sales of everybody else on my team. And I had a big, big personal team, 2,660. 92% of my volume that month was from myself, my newbies, my future leaders, 92%. Combined sales of future leaders alone, 58%. Combined sales of everybody else on my team was only 8% of the entire team's volume. And who is it we try and inspire and motivate? Those 8%ers. Who do we spend time with? Those 8%ers. They will suck the life out of you and they won't do anything in return. One of the companies that I worked very closely with, I didn't work with corporate, I was just coaching a ton of people in their field. And I can just see them sitting around the table one day and saying, if we could get those $300 a quarter people, because that was their minimum, to do even 2 parties a month, can you imagine what that would do for our volume? So they created this whole program, 2-10-1. Hold 2 parties a month, get 10 people to every party, recruit 1 person a quarter. Trying to inspire those 8%ers. Did it work? Oh, no. It did not work. In fact, guess what happened? The workers of in the field thought, oh, is that all we should be doing? Because they trained around it, they recognized around it, and they did it for a year, and their volume went down because their workers thought, oh, all I have to do is this instead of what I've been doing. Okay. Did the 8%ers do more? No. And it's not going to be any different for you guys. Those 8%ers are not your contributors, and they are an uninspirable group of people. Focus on the people that do 92% of your volume, your future leaders, your newbies in their first 90 days of business, and you. And if you have leaders, they fall into that category as well. If you look at the company, it's the leaders, the future leaders, and their newbies that do 92%. So if we don't have the right party count and we're not bringing in the right number of new people and we're not developing future leaders, we're counting on our 8%ers, the people that have been around that aren't doing anything. We're counting on them and trying to inspire them to be our volume, and they won't be. And that's when we find ourselves in trouble. So these are your priority as far as people go. You train the masses, you offer training for everybody to enjoy and learn from. We train on recruiting, we train on booking, we train on host coaching. So everybody has that opportunity to learn from you, but we work with the masses. We work with the workers. Train the masses, work with the workers. That's how we work part-time and make stupid money. So coaching, that you heard me mention coaching and new consultant contact calls. Coaching is only done with your future leaders and your direct leaders. And then your leaders do coaching with their future leaders and their direct leaders. That's sustainable. You can do that. And if you try and coach everybody in your organization, at some point very quickly, it's going to get impossible. So it's sustainable, and they're the right people to spend 30 minutes a week with coaching. It's not that we don't care about those $500,000 a month people or those leaders that don't want to rank up. If they don't want to rank up, even though they might be a direct leader, that's not somebody that we spend 30 minutes a week coaching. It's not that we don't love them and appreciate them. It's just the purpose of coaching is to help people rank up. That's why we do coaching. The rest of them, we have contact calls, we connect with them. But if I'm going to spend 30 minutes a week with somebody, it's because they want to rank up and they need the direction and the help to get there. So coaching calls are done with people that want to move their business to the next level. I could be a mid-level leader and I'm just so happy where I'm at. I had one of those. She was there for 20 years. Long after I went, she just got to that mid-level. She was making $5,000. She didn't want to go any further. So she doesn't need that 30 minutes from me. 30 minutes of coaching, and you'll hear people say 15-minute coaching calls, you can't get it done. You can't get effective coaching done in 15 minutes. I barely get through hello, how's your week going? So we need that 30 minutes to really have an effective coaching call. Spend your time where you get your biggest ROTI, return on time invested. New consultant contact calls, these should be done before and after each of their Launch Plus 4 in their first 30 days, so that we're helping them fix their misses right away. How was the bookings? What did attendance look like? How are your sales? Did you have fun? We check in with them after every party or Launch Plus 4 in their first 30 days so that we can help them fix their misses, and then we don't lose them. Even if they have a Launch Plus 4, but we're not connecting with them, that Launch Plus 4 can turn into 0 the next month if we're not helping them make sure that they get those bookings. Or they might be getting $100 in sales per party and they're just not making any money, so they're discouraged. So those new consultant contact calls in their first 30 days are really instrumental in retention, and developing those future leaders. Focus on income generating activities, get help, not mental help, assistant help, and no matter what level of leadership you are in, help will get you the opportunity to focus on your priorities. So even if you're a team leader and you have a school kid that's making hostess packets for you, recruiting packets, entering your orders, just little things like that, that allows you to spend that hour on booking contacts and hostess coaching. But as you move up through the ranks of leadership, by getting assistance is the only way you continue to work part-time and make stupid money. I have clients that have 4 assistants because they can afford it. Every time I hired a new staff member at Average to Excellence, our revenue doubled that year because it allowed me to spend more and more time on the areas where it required my expertise. And so the more time I'm spending doing revenue generating activity, the more money Average to Excellence makes. And same with you. Peer calls are fine. We all have those friends that we talk to in our company, but they don't count as work calls because they don't make you money. Unless you're reaching out to a peer and saying, you are building so many leaders, what do you do? Then that's a business call. Don't recreate the wheel. Some of you are just very creative minds and you love to make new flyers and new graphics and new this and new that, but that doesn't make you money either, and it doesn't allow you to really keep those priorities where you need them to be. So if the company has something out there that you can use, or your upline, just use theirs and don't worry about recreating the wheel. Work a consistent business that others can see themselves doing. Set office hours and stick to them. Schedule time in your planner each week for your productive priorities. Do 30-minute coaching calls with your direct and future leaders, and then do a weekly Strong Start training. That's a whole other training right there. But with your new consultants, or better yet, team up with other leaders and alternate doing that training for your new people. And that's just a once a week training that you do, not those contacts with your new consultants. All right, so let me unshare my screen. But in the meantime, if you have questions, you can type them in, or you can just unmute and ask me anything that you want. Anybody have any questions?
I put mine in the chat.
Oh, okay, where is my, how come this is not? Let me get rid of this. That's why I couldn't see it. There we go. I know I'm over, guys. I know I'm over. So if you need to jump off, I will not be offended, but since I went over, I want to make sure you get your questions answered. There we go. Oh, okay. I'm glad Amy said she could hear, so I hope that got worked out. What other rules do you have when giving parties away? Just that they came to that party observation with me. That was really the first one, and they were a future leader or a new consultant. That's who I gave my parties to. I might have the occasional leader that was struggling a little bit, and they could come with me on a party observation and get a bookings. I would do that too. But that's really the only people, unless none of them could do it, but they were my first priority. But other than that, I might give them away to other people that were working their business. But I really focused on my new people in their first 90 days and my future leaders and my leaders that were struggling. Are the new consultant contact calls 30 minutes to? No, 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. Sometimes it gets up to 10, but it's just me checking in, saying, hey, Angie, you had your first party last night. I can't wait to hear how it went. Call me or let's chat. So we don't want to overwhelm them with 30 minutes of information. That's not a coaching call. I didn't get any bookings. Oh, let's talk about that. I can help you. Attendance was like 3 people. Oh, let's talk about that. I can help you. So they just know that you're not checking in on them to see if they did a good job, but just to see if there's anything you can help them with. Anybody else? Thank you for that great feedback, Diane. Okay, well, I will let you guys go, and I'll see you. Oh, sorry. I have another slide for you. So let me just, this is just for you guys. Let me bring my slides back up. So I have, oh my goodness, here we go. I have these trainings are coming up next month, and I can give you the dates real quick. But you're getting a reduced rate is why I wanted to make sure I talked with you guys about this. So, gosh, dang it, here we go. So the 22nd of June is Don't Let Your Income Suffer in the Slow Summer Months. So that's June 22nd at 11 Pacific. And How to Have a Sizzling Summer Business is June 23rd at 11 Pacific. And now let me just give you your links. So Don't Let Your Income Suffer during the slow summer months. You guys know my trainings are usually $14.99, but for those of you that participated in this call, here's your link right here. That's going to give you the $12.99 price, and it's good until June 19th. Have a sizzling summer business, lots of ideas to keep your business going in the summer. A lot of people take the summer off because it is tougher. You know, we work twice as hard for the business in the summer months, but if we don't, then we get to September and we're in the beginning of the fall and holiday season and we're starting all over. So I want to give you ideas to keep your business going during the summer. And besides, we've got all kinds of things going on that we need money for in the summer. So here is your link for How to Have a Sizzling Summer Business. And if you want to do both, it's $5 off for just you guys. And that's your link right there that you can just post into your browser. Okay, so I'll just leave those up for you guys for a second. And you'll also see, I mean, you'll see this slide in your recording as well. It's good for until June 19th. So thank you so much, guys, for being with me today. I appreciate you. I'm so sorry that we went over, but I hope it was good and worth hanging around for. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.